I have been the first governor of the Republican governors to come out and to support the stimulus money, because I said to myself, this is terrific, and anyone that says it hasn't created a job, they should talk to the 150,000 people that have been getting jobs in California.
Private sector?
Yeah, from the private sector and also from the public sector.
So the American people are watching. They did not send us here to get bogged down with the same old delay, the same old distractions, the same talking points, the same cable chatter. You know, I mean,
let me be emphatic here. Let me be emphatic about one particular example, the stimulus. The stimulus passed despite every single Republican in the House voting no on it, everyone. Since then, the consensus among economists is that the stimulus has worked, even though it's maybe been too small. The consensus among Republicans is that it's been a horrible giant thing that hasn't done anything good at all.
Aren't you all tired of that stuff? They did not vote for the false theories of the past, and they didn't vote for phony arguments and petty politics. They didn't vote for the status quo. They sent us here to bring change. We owe it to them to deliver.
I think everybody would agree now that the stimulus hasn't worked.
An $800 billion pork-laden stimulus bill that was supposed to create jobs.
With a stimulus package that has been done so well, we now have 10.2% unemployment.
The vaunted Democratic stimulus bill has failed to stimulate anything other than a few federal bureaucrats.
Many warned, as did I, that the stimulus would amount to a mountain of wasted money.
Can you tell me where the stimulus money is?
This is not a contest for who's in power and who's up and who's down. These are your constituents. These are families you know and you care about. I believe that it is important for us to set aside some of the gamesmanship in this town and get something done.
The $787 billion stimulus package only stimulated more welfare.
We're united in imposing the massive waste-filled stimulus, or as I prefer to call it, stimulus bill.
If there's one thing that Republicans agree on now, it's that the stimulus is a bad policy. It's a bad idea that does bad things. It's a bad president's bad way of making a bad economy more bad because he's bad. Stimulus bad.
You also have been very critical of the Democrats' stimulus package. But Democrats say, and let's put this up, that your state of Kentucky has been awarded $2.5 billion in funding, which has created or saved more than 10,000 jobs. And they say that you supported $6 million in stimulus funding for the Bluegrass Army Depot in your state. In fact, last August you were at the depot and you said this: this is going to be a source of significant employment.
Also, stimulus good. What you're looking at here are pictures of the same Republicans who have trashed the stimulus as a bad thing in their home districts, taking credit for all the good things the stimulus has done. That's Bobby Jindal there, governor of Louisiana, who has railed against the stimulus, then gone around the state handing out big fake checks with his own name on them as if the money came from him instead of from the stimulus that he's been railing against. Then there's Congressman Phil Gingrey of Georgia. That's him getting all Publishers Clearinghouse with a giant check for funds that he voted against, and then criticized as worse than worthless. He called the money in that check he's holding a boondoggle, excuse me, and a dismal failure.
Let me bring in Governor Barber. Mississippi, I don't have to tell you, has 10.6% unemployment, also above the national average. A year ago, you were talking about not accepting stimulus funds. And let's look at the record here. Your latest state budget included $370 million in stimulus funds. Public schools are getting more funding than ever before. And stimulus road project signs are up around the state with your name on them.
I don't care whether you're driving a hybrid or an SUV. If you're headed for a cliff, you've got to change direction. That's what the American people called for in November, and that's what we intend to deliver.
And it's not just a couple couple of these guys who have been caught like this either. Republican John Mica of Florida trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district as helping improve one of our key economic generators. Republican Frank Wolf of Virginia trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying, we could use that money desperately. There are a lot of things up here that money could be used for.
Let me say from my heart, on behalf of House Republicans, Democrats are putting politics over prosperity.
There was an interesting headline in CNN today. Americans disapprove of stimulus but like every policy in it.
Republican Bill Schuster of Pennsylvania trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home state by attending the groundbreaking of a sewage treatment plant that it funded and praising the jobs that it would create in his district. Republican Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison of Texas trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in her home state by saying this funding will spur growth in Texas communities. Republican Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district as a great thing for this county. We're not accustomed to federal dollars in that magnitude finding their way to North Carolina.
And there was a poll that showed that if you broke it down into its component parts, 80% approved of the tax cuts, 80% approved of the infrastructure, 80% approved of the assistance to the unemployed.
Republican Senator Kit Bond of Missouri trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying it would create jobs and ultimately spur economic opportunities. Republican Joe Wilson of South Carolina, remember him, the you lie guy?
There are also those who claim that our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This, too, is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
He trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying it would provide jobs and investment in one of the poorer sections of that district. Republican Senator Bob Bennett of Utah trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying the addition of federal funds would maximize the stimulative effect on the local economy.
There is nothing counterintuitive about stimulus. There is nothing confusing about it. It is only when you call it stimulus, a big, vague mess of a $787 billion bill, that people get confused. But when it gets specific, like in these letters, there's no confusion at all.
What about the stimulus program? Do you think it worked?
It was an incoherent, largely waste of money that is now sustaining government at a time when we need to be shrinking government.
Do you think it worked?
As measured by the administration's own goals and objectives, no.
Right.
You know, they said they were going
What about the 12,000 jobs that were created in your state as a result of it?
What about Brown and McCain's leader in the Senate, Mr. Responsibility, Mitch McConnell?
A stimulus bill that was supposed to be timely, targeted, and temporary turned out to be a liberal wish list instead. Instead of stimulating the economy and keeping unemployment below 8% as promised, we stand here today with nearly 10% unemployment nationwide and many more Americans struggling to find full-time work.
5 letters, not just seeking money, but explaining why stimulus money is so important to Kentucky.
Republican Pat Tiberi of Ohio trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying it would support businesses and jobs. Republican Mary Bono Mack trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in her home district by saying the funding will provide much-needed assistance. Republican Senator Mike Johans of Nebraska trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home state by saying that just one proposed stimulus-funded project in Nebraska would create 38 new jobs.
Well, that's what the Recovery Act was. And let's face it, some of you have been at the ribbon cuttings for some of these important projects in your communities.
Republican Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home state by highlighting a project he says would create over 200 jobs in the first year and at least another 40 new jobs in the following years. Republican John Linder of Georgia trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying the employment opportunities created by this program would be quickly utilized.
Lindsey Graham said this morning on Meet the Press that the president's budget is scary. He called it a reckless exercise that is scaring people. Is your budget scary?
We've had 8 years of one approach, didn't work. We're offering a new approach. Let's look at what the Republicans are putting on the table. The senior Republican on the House Budget Committee has put forward a plan that includes $3 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations, a Medicare program when you turn 65, you'd be handed a check for 80% of the cost of health care and then you're on your own, and a Social Security plan in which your Social Security funds would be invested in the stock market. I'm not making this stuff up. That is their alternative plan.
Republican Mike Castle of Delaware trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by sending out press releases touting how imperative those funds were. Do you want to see Mike Castle of Delaware handing out one of those giant checks? Yeah, as if he hadn't actually voted to kill the money that's in that check. Mike Castle's running for senator from Delaware now, presumably on the platform of being a giant hypocrite.
Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Delaware have spoken. No more politics as usual. I'm not a witch.
Republican Eric Cantor not only trashed the stimulus and voted no on it, he coordinated the feat of having all House Republicans vote against it.
All of us know that the unemployment rate is unacceptably high. We know that the economy continues to suffer and people are hurting.
Then he held a job fair in his home district at which nearly half of the companies who were at the job fair, because they were in a position to hire, had received stimulus funds. Even John Boehner, leader of the House Republicans, who has led the trashing of the stimulus and voted no on it, and who bragged so enthusiastically on Republicans in the House all voting against it, when it came to his home district, John Boehner praised the federal funding for shovel-ready projects that will create much-needed jobs.
The American people are still asking the question, where are the jobs?
So the leader of the Republicans in the House said that financial reform was like, I'm quoting here, using a nuclear weapon to target an ant. That's what he said. He compared the financial crisis to an ant. This is the same financial crisis that led to the loss of nearly 8 million jobs.
He was referring to an interview Republican leader John Boehner did yesterday with a Pittsburgh newspaper. Boehner was asked directly about the Wall Street reform bill now before Congress and said this.
This is killing an ant with a nuclear weapon.
Same crisis that cost people their homes, their life savings. He can't be that out of touch.
Republican Senator Jim Inhofe of denying global warming fame, he trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home state by saying it would help spur additional economic growth. Republican Jack Kingston of Georgia trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying these funds should help save or create local jobs. Republican John Carter of Texas trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying it was a victory for the economy in Central Texas. Republican Glenn Thompson of Pennsylvania trashed the stimulus, voted no, then praised its effect in his home district by saying it would be great for employment in the area. Shall I go on? I could. I could keep going till the top of the hour and beyond. But you get the idea, right? This stuff isn't secret.
I mean, you remember all the fear-mongering that was going on during the health care debate, right? Remember? All of you were told, you know, you're going to lose your health care. It's going to be socialized. Government's going to come in and death panels are going to be set up. And remember that? And now we're about 3-4 months into it, and everybody's looking around. But at the time, it was scary.
And also from the public sector. I mean, if it is teachers, if it is university professors, if it is people that are building infrastructure and stuff like that. I mean, there's in every category, there's jobs that have been created in California. 150,000. These are 150,000 people that are going home today with a check, that are providing for the family, that can buy the textbooks for their kids, that are feeling wanted and needed and feeling productive. I mean, about a job, it's not just a job, it's all of those kind of other things. So I'm happy that we got this money. I'm happy that we have put 150,000 people to work, and there will be more people that we will put to work.
You do it again.
Is that it?
Jeb Henserling, Texas, and that'll be it.
Jim's going to wrap things up?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, a year ago, I had an opportunity to speak to you about the national debt. And something that you and I have in common is we both have small children. We know that under current law, that government, the cost of government is due to grow from 20% of our economy to 40% of our economy. A budget that ensures